Hey, if you're newer today, if you would look at the front of that bulletin, there should be a QR code right there in the front. If you'd scan that, let us know you're here. Maybe there's a way we can pray for you. If this is one of your first visits, we do not put you on a mailing list forever and ever, amen. You might get a note from me this week if you leave me an address, and I always include a gift card for a favorite ice cream place in the area. So if that would, just a way to say thank you for trusting us with some info and for really kind of checking us out today. That's a good thing. Heard this story. Took place in Switzerland. It was a woman journalist. She was on tour there, if you will. She says she was at a crowded bus stop, and people were waiting for the next bus to come, all right? Somewhere as they're waiting, there was a little child. Maybe he's 5, 6 in that range, and he's obviously distraught. He's in a little bit of distress, and he's yelling, not in a panic way, but it's just coming out, somebody. And she's watching this, and as he continues to mill about the crowd, and his voice is now rising with a panic, it's just somebody, and he's yelling somebody. And the more agitated he gets, people are kind of parting ways, letting him do his thing wherever he wants to go. This goes on for about 5 to 7 minutes. The journalist says it's kind of an uncomfortable feeling as everybody's watching this little guy, obviously panicked. He's screaming, somebody, and all the while, all the everybody's are parting ways except for one woman. One woman comes out, and she grabs him, scoops him up in his arms, and says, I am somebody. And she just holds him as he continues to look around. Well, the journalist is on the bus, and the bus begins to pull away. And as it's starting to leave the station, she notices what appears to now be the mom come running up, who had been looking for her little guy. And the lady who this journalist thought was the mom was just a mom who was there, who saw somebody who had a need and ran up and hugged the guy. Today I want to talk to us about what would it be like if we were a church of somebodies. What would it be like if your life, as you and I, as we go through life, you were a somebody? Because I get it, there's a whole lot of people that part. There's a whole lot of people that want to look the other way. There's a whole lot of people who want to say, he's not my problem. That's not my problem. But what if we could just transform that? What if we could be people that instead of looking the other way when there's a difficulty, when there's somebody that's got an issue, instead of looking away from them, we ran towards them? Wouldn't that? I just in my brain feel like that would be revolutionary. It's just not what we see every day, as evidenced by this one woman's story. All right? If you have your Bible, you want to open it to the book of 2 Samuel. It's in the Old Testament. If you hit Psalms, go left, okay? And if you're right of that, you're probably like Joshua and all that stuff. Just work your way to 2 Samuel 9. Really cool story. I love the story of King David and a guy by the name of Mephibosheth. What I want you to understand today is that when God extends his kindness, he doesn't intend it to stop with you and me. God wants his kindness, his favor to flow out of us to other people. That's the intention of God being good to you and I, all right? And we're doing this series called the Trust Fund. Hang on here, did I lose a slide? Did we lose the slide of what a trust is? All right, let me explain what a trust is. If some of you know what this is, right? I've just sort of recently, Patty and I went through setting up a trust for our family. In a trust, because we're calling this series a trust fund, in a trust you have somebody that is like the grantor of the trust, somebody that's got all the assets. They've got the stuff that they want to pass along to somebody else. And so they are the ones who set up a trust. In our case, it's Mike and Patty. Mike and Patty have set up a trust. We've got all our assets that we put into the trust. with the goal being that we're going to get to a spot where the trust ends up going to our beneficiaries, the people we want to benefit from our stuff. In between us and the people who get it is called a trustee. They're the ones that are actually holding on to our stuff to make sure that it gets to the right people. That's basically, in a nutshell, how a trust works, all right? Somebody has the assets. They set up an account where they want it to go to this person, and in between is a middle person that holds kind of the purse, if you will. I'm not a financial guy, so I'm not going to tell you there's just some benefits of doing that, okay? All right, the trust fund. What we're talking about in this series is I believe that God gives us certain things. And God doesn't intend for what he gives to stop with you and I. He intends that it would pass through me to other people. And last week we looked at like our stuff. What if the goal of you having stuff wasn't for you to hang on to it, but was to pass it through? Today I want you to look at the people. What if the people in your world, what if the people that you're rubbing shoulders with, what if the people that you encounter, what if you don't own them, but God intends that through your life, their life would be better? And I think in a world that oftentimes thinks that people, like I get my family, I get my kids, I get my grandkids, but the rest of you? Seriously? Isn't it really kind of what we run into regularly? Like, you got problems, I got problems, deal with your problems, I'll deal with my problems, we'll go our own way. What are you to me? That's a very common thought out there. You love the people that are in your immediate circle. If they're not in your immediate circle, do you care? I'm asking you just as an honest question. Not guilt, but do you care? And I venture to say most of us don't care. Not like we're trying to be rude about it. It's just like, I got bigger fish to fry than your problems. Deal with it, okay? What if God intends? What if in God's plan, he wants me to care? What if in God's plan, you are sort of my responsibility as we enter life? And how can what God has given me flow through me to be a benefit to you? Oh, I just want you to think about it today. I want to present a case where hopefully if you walk out of here thinking, what does God intend for my life to look like? Because I think that's the difference between what I oftentimes think religion looks like this. Religion, you come to a church service, you hear a message, you sing a couple songs, and you go home and you live Monday through Saturday. That's religion. There's really you just go to church and you feel good for Sunday, but there's no real difference about what this means on Wednesday. And I think Jesus intends that when we gather here on Sunday, it makes a difference on Thursday. And one of the ways it is like I'm encountering people all week long, okay? So God intends that his kindness, his favor, his grace flows through me to other people. And the story in 2 Samuel about a guy by the name of Mephibosheth, if I can just kind of give you a summary of what we got going on here. Mephibosheth is the son of a guy by the name of Jonathan. It was King Saul. King Saul's in charge of kingdom. If you know your Old Testament a little bit, he's like, I don't know, he's just like, boom, I'm the guy. Bam, it's me, it's all about me. God comes along, says, no, I'm going to set up David. David wasn't part of his blood, because normally it passes through blood. And I thought, that's sort of weird, except we just saw that in South Carolina. Think about what's happening in South Carolina. Graham's sister becomes senator, no qualifications, just blood. So that's what you had. That's how the whole of the Old Testament system is set up. You had a king, unless he gets his throne, he passes on to his kid, to his kid, to his kid. All right? So Saul's got Jonathan. Jonathan's going to be next in line. David and Jonathan are friends. They go to battle. Saul gets killed. Jonathan gets killed. And David now is going to ascend to the throne. He's going to be the king. Mephibosheth enters the story because he's a little 5-year-old guy. He's Jonathan's son. He would technically be next in line to the throne. But now, dad and granddad are dead. Okay? They've been killed off. And so what the nanny does with the family of Jonathan is they're like, we got to get out of here, because they would be next in line. What do you do? You kill off the blood. That's it. It doesn't matter he's only 5. He's next in line to the throne. If you're going to attack the family, you go get the whole family. And so in the haste to get out of town, Mephibosheth gets dropped, and we read in the scriptures that as he's dropped, he becomes paralyzed. Maybe he hits a rock on his back. We don't know. But we do know that for the rest of his life, beginning at age 5, he's a cripple. And now he's got to be carried all through his life, right? All right, David ascends to power. David's been doing this for about 20 years by the time we get to 2 Samuel chapter 9. In chapter 8, verse 15, we read, David reigned over all of Israel, doing what was just and right for all his people. Just a very summary verse, but a cool verse. It just says, as David went up in power, he didn't get corrupted. He was doing the right thing by all his people. And so now he's in this position. He's conquered all his enemies. There's a chill in the air. The kingdom's doing well. And in chapter 9, read David asked, is there anyone still left for the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Put all the enemies to rest. And he's sitting there one day and he says, hey, did Jonathan have anybody left? Did anybody make it out of there? Because he had made a promise to Jonathan. He just said, if either one of us survive this thing, let's just promise each other we'll look after everybody's, your kids, your family. And it comes back to him. He's like, oh, was there anybody out there? Verse 2 says there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They called him to appear before David, and the king said to him, are you Ziba? Yes, your servant, he said. The king said, is there no one still left for the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness? And Ziba answered the king, there's still a son of Jonathan. He's crippled in both feet. He said, well, where is he? He's at the house of this guy in Lo-Debar, all right? Lo-Debar means a barren place, means like a desert, means like if you can think of like a small town with stop signs, no stoplight, maybe a grocery store on one corner, gas station on the other, and nobody stops there. That's where he is. Why is he there? Can you imagine going from being a spot of having a shot at the kingdom to now you don't want to be found? You don't want people looking you up, because it can't be good news. So you're getting as far away as you can in the middle of nowhere, and you hope everybody forgets you, and you're just going to live out your days. That's where Mephibosheth finds himself, okay? Into this, we read here, twice now, David's used this word kindness. What is kindness? It's an Old Testament word, hesed, which means, here we've got down, it's a Hebrew word meaning loving kindness or steadfast love. It's a sense of, I want the best for you. I know we're not blood. You don't earn it. You can't pay me for it. I'm going to be true to you. I'm going to be loyal to you because of who I am, not because of who you are. Has everything to do with the person loving, okay? It's rooted in a covenant or promise and mercy rather than emotion. It's not like we see in a lot of the movies and songs today. It's not an emotional response. It's a volition. It's something in your gut, something that you will to say, I want the best for you, and I'm going to do what I can that you would have the best. It's translated goodness, kindness, it's deeds of devotion, it's being faithful. You see there 32 times it's translated kindness, loveliness, loving kindness, 176 times, all right? The idea behind kindness, grace, favor, this idea that I am going to pledge myself to want to see you succeed. And you can't pay me for it. I'm not looking for money. You can't work for it. This is out of my heart to you. And so it begs the question, why would someone do this? Why would David want to show this kind of love to Mephibosheth, who he hasn't seen for 20 years? No idea where he is. Right? He's asking about, is there anybody still left? Oh, yeah, there's his son. Where is he? He's out in the middle of sticks. He's upper central Missouri. No, it's like 4 hours up there. There's nobody up there. He's like, well, what does he say? He says, well, go get him. So King David, verse 5, had him brought from Lo-debar. And when Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. And David said, Mephibosheth, your servant, he said, well, don't be afraid. Shoot, what? Why would he be afraid? What would he have to be fearful of? Oh, maybe he knows the system. Maybe he knows that David sent for me because he wants to, because he's threatened by me. And so you see him saying, don't be afraid, David said, I'm going to show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. And I'm going to give you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul. And you're going to eat at my table always. And Mephibosheth bowed down and said, what is your servant me that you should notice a dead dog like me? What an expression. Interesting. Think pack animal. Don't think your golden retriever. Mephibosheth said, why are you taking an interest in me? I'm like a wild animal that is dead. To the Jewish person, they didn't like dogs and they didn't like dead things. Both were 2 strikes. This is like, I'm as low as I can get here. David, why did you send for me? Why are you interested in me? I would just as soon not be here. I was wondering, why did he come? Why did he come? If the White House called, would you answer the phone? If you knew Trump was on the other end line, would you take the call? Interesting question. That's what you have here. The White House called. Hey, the king wants you to come. Why? What did I do? How do you know I was here? Who told him? No, I don't want to go. But the king is calling. And so he ends up in front of David, and now he's like pleading his case. He's basically saying, man, David, I am no threat to you. I am as low as I can get. I'm going to, just let me go. Let me go back home. Let me live out my days. I got, I'm just happy, just sitting there every day watching the sun come up and go down. It's all the life I got. Don't take it from me. And David wants so much more for him. David wants to be a somebody in his life. While Mephibosheth wants to be a nobody. I wonder today how many people want to be nobodies. You just soon be a nobody. You don't want to be a somebody. I was reading this week an article that came out of the Wall Street Journal. It was August 5th was a tagline date on it that said that 1 in 20, 20%, 1 in 5 Americans admit to regularly facing periods of loneliness. 1 in 5. You just feel like nobody knows, nobody cares, I don't have friends. That's a large chunk. I've read the stats that just say that one of the things that's happening with technology, the emergence of the technology we see, is people are turning to animated chat, GPT, Claude, all that stuff for friendship, for companionship. They don't feel like there's anybody they can talk to. They're living in Lo-debar. They're like a dead dog. They're a nobody. I got nobody to talk to. Let me just go online. What if the church could be filled with somebody who would care enough to see people and want to say, hey, come on, you don't have to live like that. What if that could be what's going on here? So I'm asking myself and asking you, who has God entrusted to you? Who has God put in your circle? Who has God got around you and I, whether regularly or maybe haphazardly, that we can pass along the goodness and grace of God, that we can be a benefit to them? And you say to yourself, Why should you? And I say to you this, because God's been good to you. That's the only reason. Because you have experienced and tasted God's kindness. You want to pass it along. I thought this was interesting. Here was a Chinese Christian was kind of given his story of why he became a Christian. And he said, I've walked through life, and imagine walking through life and you fall into a great ditch, and the ditch was filled with depression, discouragement, sin, loneliness. As I lay in the ditch, Muhammad came along and said, it's your fault. You offended Allah, and this is your punishment. Marx came by and said, you're in the ditch because of class warfare. You've got to rise up. You've got to revolt. You've got to take matters into your own hands. After the government changed, I was still in my ditch. Buddha came along and said, you're not really in a ditch. You just think you're in a ditch. It's an illusion of mind. Be at peace and live and just learn to live in your ditch. Confucius came by and said, here are 10 steps to get better by which you can get out of your ditch. If you will struggle, you will climb out eventually. But the guy said, as much as I struggled and strained, I couldn't get out of the ditch because it was too deep. And then one day Jesus came by, and Jesus saw me in the ditch. And without a word, he took off his robe, and he got down in the muddy ditch with me. And then he lifted me up with his strong arms, and he pulled me out of the ditch. Thank God that Jesus did for me what I could not do for myself. That is why I am a Christian. That's what Jesus has done for you, friends. The grace of God has come, has appeared, Paul says, and he's made us alive through nothing that you've done, so that by grace you are saved through faith, so that there's a hope, there's a sense of a new life, because you and I trust Jesus, and Jesus has made it right. That's what this kindness is. That's why David would say, God's been good to me. God spared me. God gave me this kingdom. I didn't deserve this kingdom. Who am I? But look at all the stuff I've got. Man, how can I now show God's kindness to other people? What does it look like then for us to do that, live this way? And I think the first thing I want us to be aware of is just seeing the people. Being aware that we look and see people. I look out today and I see people. I see stories. It's easy to walk by people and miss their stories. To miss that you are an individual that God is at work in, he's doing stuff in, there's hurts you've been in your life, there's been joys in your life. You've got a story. But man, I get so busy, I can get so wrapped up in my world that like your world just doesn't enter into it. I wish you well. Hope you have a good week. And we miss opportunities, I think, to learn from each other and build into each other and encourage each other. David looked at Mephibosheth and said, you got nothing to offer me, but that's not going to stop me from reaching out to you and saying, how can I be a help to you? How can I be a help to you? Is there anyone left that I can show kindness to? My brain went to a number of times in the New Testament when it says of Jesus that Jesus looked and saw people. He looked and he looked and he saw people. It's so easy to run by. You're in management, it's so easy to run by. Forget that these people may have stuff going on in the world at home. It can be very easy and frustrating when you're an employee to just look at your manager and just see someone that's telling you what to do and maybe not understand maybe the stuff they've got going on in their house. We get our families. We understand most of the story in our family, but we don't know our neighbors, don't talk to them. I understand it. I do. I'm not beating us up for it. But I'm saying, you find people that see people, you're encountering a different kind of individual. That was interesting this week. We had a dinner, Patty and I, with another couple, and one of the things that happened at the end of the meal was our waitress came, and our waitress said to us, hey, I heard you guys talking about Christian things. Are you guys Christians? I don't know about you, how many times, you know the thing that struck me? Besides the fact she was eavesdropping, okay? She noticed. She listened. She noticed. I noticed you guys talk about this, and she said, is there anything I can be praying for you guys for? At Red Robin. You know, that great bastion of Christianity, Red Robin. I got the waitress standing there saying, how can I pray for you? What did she do? She noticed, she listened, and she said. And I think if we could be a people that would notice and be willing to step in and just say, hey, what's going on? Hey, I heard this. Hey, it just kind of, you seem down today. Hey, is there a way I can pray for you? I've been thinking about you. Pick up a phone call, make a call. Hey, it's just been on my mind. Send a note. Those are powerful ways to see people, let them know someone noticed. And maybe remind them God noticed. I thought this was interesting. I came across this story of a person, a college student, I believe. True story, his name was Mark. He had cleaned out his locker and was on his way to his car when he accidentally stumbled and things fell out and he makes a mess, okay? Somebody saw this and stopped and helped him pick up his stuff. It says a conversation started, and before very long, a friendship developed. And when the time was right, Mark explained to his new friend that the reason he cleaned out his locker was he didn't want to leave a mess behind for someone else, for he had saved up enough of his mom's sleeping pills to put himself to sleep. He was going to go home and kill himself when an act of unexpected kindness gave his plans and his life a new direction, simply by someone willing to help pick up his mess when he stopped and dropped it. Never underestimate the power of your actions. You never know when one small gesture will change a person's life. God puts us all in each other's lives to impact one another in some way, if only we would stop and look for what we see of God in other people. Some buddies are willing to go first. Do you ever play that game of like, oh, you know, somebody is like a little tuggle and like there's now friction and they're like, they're going to call me. I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to apologize first. David was willing to go first. And the thing I want to remind you about going first, it looks like this. I don't think weak people can go first. I think it's a sign of strength that you can go first. Weak people wait for others to initiate. It's only strong people that can put themselves out there. And I ask myself, why? Why can't weak people go first? You know why? You get it, don't you? Weak people are interested in how they're viewed. Weak people are look at through the lens of how am I going to look in this? And I'm going to look weak if I go first. So I'm going to be a big guy. I'm going to be a man. I'm going to make you come to me. Weak people can't go first. It takes something of some intestinal fortitude in you to be strong enough to admit that you were wrong. It takes some courage on your part to step out of the comfort zone and go to somebody else. That's something weak people can't do. David looked and said, who's out there? Let me go find him. I want to be a help. I want to have him sit at my table. Where is he? Come on, let's talk. And I just got thinking, man, what if we were a church? What if your family? What if you were the person that could be counted on to go first? Because you're not trying to protect yourself. You're not trying to make yourself look better. And it made me just think of Jesus, like the number of times, like he just would, he'd be looking and he'd say to the tax collector, hey, let's go have a meal at your house. When everybody else would be like, do you not know? Do you look at that guy? We don't hang out with him. Can I ask you a question? What's so cool about you that God sought you out? Seriously, take your outline and just write it down. Just one word. What's so cool about you that God sought you out? Okay, so I'm messing with you. Is there anything cool about me that God sought me out? It was the kindness of God. Through some teachers that poured into my life and saw me as somebody as a 15, 16-year-old and just struck up conversations and challenged me and pointed me in a direction. It was college teachers, one in particular, that was like we could just talk. And I could just boom. I had another guy that I just shared just the dumb stuff that college kids think, and he just readily let me talk. Hey, you might want to rethink that. People willing to go first in my life. What if you could be that way for somebody else? And you could be the person that other people could lean on. What's it look like? I think it's when we look people in the eye. I think it's when we go to them and say that we're sorry if we've messed up. I think it's when we stand up against injustice. I think when you see the wrong thing happening, you're willing to say, no, that's not right. When you treat other people with respect, they're not worthy of respect. They're not worthy of it, right? They're a jerk, right? That, right? Makes sense, right? You treat a jerk like a jerk, right? You treat people better because you've been treated better. If the way I treat you is dependent on who you are, you see how false that is? Because if you're a great guy, I treat you well. If you're a jerk, I treat you like a jerk. It just makes me like a yo-yo up and down. If I treat you well because I've been treated well, that's on me. You see? That's on you. They made me do it. They made you do it. Seriously, they made you do it. Are you that weak? Now I want to get at you. Are you that weak? They made you do this. You're a puppet. You got no control over how you treat people. You got no control how you respond. You respond in kind. If you've been treated poorly, you're going to treat poorly back. That makes you nothing more than a puppet. Where God calls you and I to be stronger and say, okay, I get that you want to be a jerk right now. I don't have to respond in kind. That's what it's like to go first. We see people, we go first. And the third thing that I just noticed that David did here that just blew me away was he went to the extra step of saying, hey, I'm going to give you back. All that land that was yours, all that land that was your dad's, I'm giving it back to you. Warman, he was the king. Oh, man, and that's, yeah, I get it. I understand. What do you got that you can give people? That's where I want you to get to. What do you have that people might benefit from you? You want my card? Notice I pulled out this one. I didn't pull out my Chase. I was selective in which card I offered you. That's what we think. You immediately go to your checkbook. What do you have to offer people that would be a benefit to them? What about your time? What about just time? Because you can't get it back when you give somebody your time, your experience, the skills that you have, being willing to come alongside someone else. What about your faith? Passing along your faith. I want to show you a guy. This is Randy and Judy Merrill. We had lunch with them this week. They're from Detroit. They're on their way to Kansas City. Randy is a construction guy by trade. He's a construction owner. At one time, they were very, very prominent in the Detroit area. Somebody embezzled a great deal of money, cost him to lose everything and go all the way back down to the bottom. Hilarious guy. This is him being normal. This was in the spring at a wedding. Okay? Let me tell you a little bit about Randy. There's somebody who was in my life. Randy and we've known him 41 years. So I was doing the math. We've been friends that long. They were at our wedding, okay, 41 years ago. All right. So I don't know when you think about he's a savvy business guy, except that he got cheated on, right? During the course of our time together, Randy always served on the deacon board at our church. He was very involved in serving God and using his gifts in business and finance. Randy was involved with the Boys Brigade, which is the Christian Boy Scouts at our church. In fact, my oldest son, Eric, benefited from Randy being one of his leaders. This guy, Randy, went on 2 mission trips with us with our teens. Because he was in the trades, because I knew nothing about the trades, Randy and another guy by the name of Dave took off vacation 2 different years, took a week of vacation, went down with us. That's the only thing they ever really did with our high school ministry, but they went. And the dude was just an awesome guy to work with, as he loved on the kids. Randy and Judy allowed us to use their basement when we wanted to throw a really cool birthday party for our son. Our basement really wasn't much of anything, and we wanted to have a sleepover, and he had a Coke-themed basement, and he's like, come on over. Randy is the guy that Halloween, he's the first guy I ever encountered that bought the large-size candy bars. You could count on Randy to have the large-size candy bar. Randy, whenever he came to church in his sport coat, had candy for kids. I mean, kids would just flock to him, and he would just have whatever was there, Smarties and whatever. Randy, when we were going through a difficult time at our church, Randy went up to Patty and he said to her, to the effect, you don't know what your being in church, the encouragement that is to Judy and I, because we know what you're going under. Just pulled her aside and just said, I just want you to know, it matters to us. Randy, he had a cabin. They had a cabin up in northern Michigan. And Randy was a frequent person that let other people go up there and use his cabin to get away. Could be a couple, could be couples retreats. But his stuff was always available for other people to use. And I thought, he was a guy that even here, just still making nobody feel like somebody by use of his time, by use of his stuff. What if we were a church of Randy's? What if that's the person you were like when you went to work? You were that person that was like, man, what do you need? How can I help? I think one of the reasons that culture is turned off of Christianity is we're known for the things that we stand against. We're known for the sin that we don't want to tolerate. What if we could be known as the people that were inclusive of people, inviting of people, loving on people, using our stuff to make people's lives better? You don't think people would be attracted to that? Instead, they get all the negative stuff. And like, man, David looked at Mephibosheth and said, all right, what has God given me that I'm going to give back to you? Because that's really what it's like, the people in my world passing along what God has entrusted to me. So as I made myself a note, this isn't just about Mike being nicer. It's about serving people as Jesus has served me. That's what this is about. It's giving people a place at the table. It's helping people feel accepted. It's giving people their dignity back. That's what the church, that's what we as believers should be about. What would that look like for you? So I was asking myself this week, who's God put in your circle? Seriously, who's God? You know, I did an exercise 3 months ago. They said take 10 minutes and write down everybody you know. Now, that was fun. I got to 70 people, and I didn't think initially I had 70 people in my world. I'm not asking you to get to 70. I'm just saying, who's God put in your world? Who do you rub shoulders with? Who rubs shoulders with you, and sometimes it's a waitress that's watching that you got no idea? Think about that for a second. It's a server watching our table that we would never have thought she was listening. What if you could be that person in other conversations? Hey, I just heard this. I just want you to know I'm going to be praying for you. Hey, we can help. Hey, would you allow me to help? How can we give God's kindness away? Because God didn't intend for it to stop with me. How can I be a somebody So let me give you some things right now that are happening at church. Looking for someone to paint a classroom. We want to expand. We got 10 kids coming 10 on the roster of the preschool, and we want to split that classroom, but we'd love to have someone come in and paint. Would you paint a couple of walls? We need a teacher for that classroom. We got 10 kids coming in preschool, and we want to go preschool, and then we want to go K1. We want somebody that will just love the kids and want to teach them, like Randy did. Our student ministry, we're looking for at least another adult or two that will just love kids and want to like invite them, include them, like go after, like notice them. Our praise team. We could use you if you have the gift. That even sounds weird. If you just have like, if you just would like to be a part, we could use you. You're like, Warman, is that like, see, you're just pitching for help again. You know what I'm pitching for? Like, help God out? You know what I'm pitching for? You to take that thing that God's put inside of you and get it out. See people. Praise team's coming up. Go first. There are people's lives that I honestly believe you could change if you were willing to go first. It's just, will I? Because David didn't have to do that. He did not have to put himself out like that. So, if that's you, man, love to connect with you. Shannon could, Ian could. I just so believe in what Randy just reminded me. The dude's as humble as can be, and I thought back over my time with him and the ways that he just was there for other people. And I thought, it's not hard. It's really not hard. It's like, here, is it here? Has God touched your heart and you're like, I just got to get it out. The way God has helped me, I want to be helping other people. Let's stand and sing with these guys. Father, these people you love, as they leave here, I pray that they would know that you will go with them. For those, Lord, that are watching online that are wondering if you're still got them, if they're still with them, I pray that you do something even this day. That would just be that small reminder that, God, you got us. People that are facing decisions and they're just not sure what to do, what direction, what step to take next. Father, I pray you give them wisdom. Lord, I pray that you would help us each to realize that we can be a somebody. We can be a somebody who feels like a nobody. Just open our eyes, help us to see what's going on in the world around us. Help us be willing to step into that world. Father, help us be able to just take and just, freely, Scripture say we've been freely given. So, Lord, help us to freely give. That your kingdom would be advanced, God, that you would be pleased. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. God bless you. Go. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.